This is a Gros Michel banana. You have almost certainly tasted its ghost. In candy, in gum, in ice cream. That bright, unmistakable banana flavor you know? This is what it was modeled after, and it has been extinct for 70 years.
You will never eat the real thing.
Here is the cruelest truth in food history. Some of the most extraordinary fruits on Earth are completely gone. Not rare, not endangered,
Gone.
and every single one of them disappeared because of us. Let's start with the one that hits closest to home. The Gros Michel, Big Mike. For most of the early 20th century, this was the world's dominant banana. It was enormous, far bigger than what you buy today. The peel was thick and split cleanly, no sticky fingers. And the flesh. Imagine a banana that actually smelled like melted vanilla ice cream, with a tropical floral sweetness that hit you the moment you broke the skin. The texture was dense, almost custardy. It dissolved on your tongue like ripe butter. Now compare that to the banana in your kitchen right now, slightly starchy, faintly astringent, one-dimensional. That difference isn't subtle. It's a completely different fruit. And then a fungus arrived. Fusarium wilt, Panama disease. Every single Gros Michel on Earth was genetically identical, cloned from a single parent plant. So when the fungus hit one plantation, it hit them all simultaneously. Within a decade, the entire global supply was wiped out. We replaced it with the Cavendish, not because it tasted better, but because it was the only thing resistant. Now here is the part that keeps banana scientists awake at night. The Cavendish is dying right now. A new strain of Panama disease is spreading across Asia, Australia, Africa, and South America. If it reaches the Americas, the Cavendish's last stronghold, the banana you ate this week may be one of the last generation. History about to repeat itself. Now for something older, stranger, and more unsettling. The watermelon in your fridge right now is the product of thousands of years of selective breeding. Bright scarlet red, seedless, explosively sweet. But 2,000 years ago, the ancient Romans were looking at something completely unrecognizable. Picture this. You slice one open, and instead of that deep crimson interior, you see pale, almost white flesh, the bone white of a raw potato. The texture is firm, almost fibrous, with none of that juicy give you expect. And there, at the center, instead of a neat cluster of black seeds, you find a spiral of pale, underdeveloped ovules, like a flower pressed into the flesh before it had time to become anything. No bright sweetness, no refreshing crunch. Instead, a faintly bitter, watery taste closer to a cucumber than to anything you'd call a dessert. The honeydews were different too, smaller, more aromatic, with thinner rinds. We didn't just lose some antique variety. We lost the genetic ancestors. There is no seed bank, no cutting.
They are simply gone.
Now the strawberry. The wild woodland strawberry, Fragaria vesca, once carpeted ancient European forests from Scandinavia to the Mediterranean. Not the large, bright red berries in your supermarket. These were tiny, the size of a child's fingernail, bright scarlet, intensely fragrant. The aroma hit you before you even picked one up, a wild, floral sweetness with a raspberry-like tang that modern strawberries have almost completely lost. Medieval monks cultivated it in monastery gardens. Roman foragers prized it. In 1st century Rome, it was considered a luxury. As Europe's ancient forests were cleared, the wild strawberry retreated. Not with a catastrophe, just quietly, as the forests disappeared. We kept the species Fragaria vesca in botanical collections. But the ancient forest-adapted varieties, those are gone.
We saved a plant. We lost a scent.
In colonial America, there was a watermelon called the St. John's, grown along the river that shares its name in Florida. It was a staple of early Thanksgiving tables, described as having deep red flesh but a thicker, more rugged rind than modern varieties, adapted to the humid subtropical riverbank conditions of the Florida coast. By the 1800s, sweeter, more uniform European hybrid varieties had taken over commercial production. The St. John's, less consistent, harder to ship, slightly more fibrous, was simply abandoned. No one saved seeds from the last plants. It stopped being grown.
It stopped being remembered.
But don't think extinction only happens in ancient history. Some species didn't even have time to produce a second generation of seeds. On the remote island of St. Helena, yes, the one where Napoleon died in exile, there once grew a pear tree. Not a wild pear, but a cultivated European variety brought by settlers, uniquely adapted to the island's volcanic soil and isolated ecosystem. Because St. Helena had no native pollinators and no related pear species nearby, the trees had become effectively self-sterile over generations. As old orchards were abandoned and the last veteran trees died of age or storm damage, no replacements could be grown. By the 1870s, the St. Helena pear was gone. Not killed by disease, not cleared for agriculture, simply unable to reproduce.
A cultivar that ran out of time.
In the citrus groves of 19th century Cyprus, a blood orange grew that was unlike anything today. The flesh was not just red, it was streaked with deep maroon, almost purple, with a complex berry-like tartness layered over the citrus sweetness. The juice was described as blood dark, almost wine-like in its intensity. It was prized across the Mediterranean as both a gourmet fruit and a medicinal staple. Then came Tristeza, a viral disease spread by aphids that devastated citrus orchards. Within a few decades in the late 1800s, the trees were wiped out. The dark-fleshed Cypriot blood orange was abandoned. Its exact flavor profile is now gone. We have blood oranges. They are not the same. In Victorian England, there was a grape variety called the blue Imperial, Rudum Pinot, some called it, that was once the standard for English table grapes and wine production. It grew vigorously in the English climate, producing small, intensely flavored blue-black clusters with a sweet tart intensity that no modern table grape quite matches. Then came Phylloxera, the tiny aphid, no bigger than a pinhead, arrived on imported American vine stock in the 1870s. Within 2 decades, it destroyed virtually all European vineyards. Because English viticulture was small-scale and fragmented, no one maintained isolated plantings or backup stock. By the time English vineyards were replanted, Blue Imperial was simply gone. In the Pacific Islands, Papua New Guinea, Vanuatu, Fiji, there once grew a cooking banana called the OG-10. Not a sweet dessert banana like the Cavendish. This was a starchy, dense variety, the staple carbohydrate for highland communities. It was cooked while green, sliced, roasted, fried, with a texture closer to sweet potato than to any banana you'd eat raw. Nutritious, reliable, perfectly adapted to Pacific Island conditions. Over the last 50 years, as hybrid commercial varieties were introduced, the OG-10 was abandoned in favor of higher-yielding options. It is now critically endangered in the wild. The knowledge of how to prepare it, the traditional recipes, the cultural significance, is fading with the elders who remember it. And then there are the fruits that vanished before we even had time to properly study them. The Santorini tomato, grown in the volcanic soil of the Greek islands, genetically unique due to centuries of isolation, so sweet it was said to need no seasoning. Gone by the early 1900s when the island's agricultural systems collapsed. The Aldonian date palm, a unique wild fruit palm of the Arabian Peninsula, described by Victorian botanists as producing grape-sized orange fruits with an unusually aromatic flesh. Never cultivated, never saved, extinct before the 1900s. And in Brazil's Atlantic forest, wild mango species that existed for millennia were cleared in a single generation when the forest was burned for cattle pasture. Not a single specimen was preserved.
We don't even have a reliable botanical description.
Here's what I want you to hold on to. Every fruit on this list didn't choose to disappear. They were made to disappear by systems that valued efficiency over resilience, yield over diversity, shelf life over flavor. And we are doing the exact same thing right now. The Cavendish banana you ate this week, genetically identical to every other Cavendish on Earth, is dying. One fungus, one virus, one climate shock, and then there will be nothing left. Not because God decided it.
Because we did.
The question is, which ones? And do we care enough to remember them before they're gone?